What would you say if I told you that scientists could genetically perfect yourself and your future children for generations to come? Let's say you're concerned you'll pass down a genetic disorder or disease to your child. Scientists could actually remove the gene entirely and replace it with a whole new one. With the technology of CRISPR, or clustered regularly interspaced short palindromic repeats, we have the technological potential to end disease, create designer babies, and even achieve eternal youth to some extent. With the help of extensive research and my previous knowledge of pathology and physiology of the human body, I'm going to tell you about modifying somatic cells, modifying germline cells, and the American Research Facility that is attempting to put these ingenious technologies into action. There are indeed two main ways to edit a person's genes as of right now. We can edit a person's somatic cells, which are the cells that make up most of our bodies, the cells of our skin, our hair, blood, and organs. Because we are editing the cells of a live person who already exists, editing the genes within somatic cells only tampers with the genes of that sole person. The way that this is performed is by using CRISPR to add, cut, and or change the genes of that person that is negatively impacting their life. If someone is born genetically blind, for example, somatic cell modifying can seek to correct genetic disorder in a way that average procedures cannot. We could potentially replace missing or dysfunctional genes that cause disorders, or we could even replace them with more unique and favorable genes. Somatic cellular modification has already been used to correct and cure cystic fibrosis, HIV, and blindness in mice, as most forms of human genetic testing is limited, especially here in the US. While somatic cell modification sounds like a highly attractive scientific breakthrough as is, what scientists are really interested in is germline genetic modification, which has a much more controversial connotation amongst the public. Germline genetic modification refers to the act of tampering with genes in an ova, spermatoza, or early embryo, rather than editing the genes of a live person. These genes would affect every cell in every person born from the original edited embryo, thus carrying the modification through multiple generations. This could be both a good thing and a bad thing. For example, if you were to try to edit the gene for breast cancer out of your child, not only would that child no longer have breast cancer at all in their life, but every child born from their genes would never have breast cancer. But on the other hand, if something were to go haywire with the gene, not only would your child be genetically mutated, but so would every other child from their genes. The Center for Genetics and Society states that it would be by far the most consequential type of genetic modification. If used for enhancement purposes, it could open the door to new market-based form of eugenics. This essentially states that societies could create designer babies, free of imperfections. They could be higher intelligent. They could have higher stamina. They could even have a higher metabolism than most other kids. For these reasons, this form of human genetic modification is prohibited in more than 40 countries, as the results are promising yet simply unpredictable at this point. Now that you know of the two ways that human genetic editing can be performed, we can better understand Oregon Health and Science University's first-hand experience on the topic. The very first known attempt at genetically modifying human embryos occurred in Portland, Oregon, led by researcher Shaukraut Metalopov. Previous genetic modified embryos were tested using CRISPR in other countries, mainly China, but neither Metalopov nor these other researchers were allowed to actually allow the embryo to develop more than a few days, as it is completely illegal to allow a genetically modified baby to be carried to term. China did have some success, however. They edited an embryo from a beagle to be extremely, almost grotesquely muscular. It did turn out very well, but we really can't apply that same technology to humans as our DNA is completely different. So to sum things up, try to open your mind to these new wild possibilities. If we could, as a society, could give genetic engineering a genuine chance before we feel intimidated by the unknown, we could completely obliterate age-old diseases and disorders that plague our society. Cystic fibrosis, sickle cell anemia, HIV, even cancer could finally be not only cured and prevented, but almost entirely wiped out from humans. Millions of lives would not only be saved, but enhanced. So let me ask you again. With the newfound knowledge that I have given you, if you could cure a genetic disorder or disease that plagues you or your family at the cost of putting your trust in science, would you take the chance? Or would you simply let nature take its course? Thank you.